Yu-Gi-Oh! Odion Archetype, Temple of the Kings by TGS Anime. As someone who's been a fan of Odion for years, loved him in Battle City, loved that whole arc. I've been waiting for, Mystical Beast Circuit support for a hot minute. I've been very specifically waiting for this video to see what the new support is.
The Odion Archetype, also known as the Temple of the Kings archetype, originally started out as a handful of cards used by Odion during his one and only duel in the Battle City finals.
There was only one,
his
right?
His deck, which would later get the name of a Trap Hell deck, heavily relied on the usage of many trap cards to control the opponent's plays and disrupt their strategies. The goal with a Trap Hell deck is to essentially slow the pace of the game down exponentially, causing your opponent to be really fumbled by this. They can't get off their plays in the way that they want to. So the board that they wanted to make, well, it's not quite what they wanted to make.
I mean, all that he's missing is Final Countdown. Am I right? Because everybody loves fighting Final Countdown stall. Everybody loves fighting that deck. Unironically been looking at... I was actually Nurse Burn. I was going to build Nurse Burn.
So what do? You strike. In fact, I think Yugi explains this best. He says trap cards don't just have the power to turn the tables of a duel. They also have the power to inflict emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Oh my god.
Which is true. The mind games of playing against a trap-based deck that has, say, 5 set mysterious cards on the field, well, it can really make you overthink and second-guess yourself, causing you to self-destruct.
Yeah, so actually on this subject, because we've been getting more and more releases, right, as time goes on. Can somebody tell me why Guardian Slime is like $30? What deck is it used in? I don't see it. I mean, like, because I play Yugioh Fiendsmith, right? I actually need to make sure it's banlist compliant at this point because it's been a minute since I played. Why is Guardian Slime like $30? Egyptian God Slime used to be up there, but that's because anime card, right? Dragon Magister Magia or whatever it's called. I mean, that only had what, a QCR, but then now it has an additional printing now, so that's only like $10 ish, 11ish. Why is Guardian Slime so expensive? Did I miss what deck it goes in? Is it actually hyper competitive? I'd be very curious to the answer on that. I always thought that the Trap Monster thing was kind of great, even in older like Yu-Gi-Oh games, like World Championship, like DS games and stuff like that. I always love the concept of them, and thus we see it in modern with, I want to say contemporary, not hyper modern, right? But like Paleozoic archetypes, right? Doug Zeef absolutely loves Paleozoic from what I understand. I haven't played them personally. I think I've played against them a few times. That and the Horus archetype. I'm getting way off topic here. I'm so sorry. I'm already derailing the reaction. Point being, I actually really like that we're getting legacy support, and I think that Konami is doing the correct thing in giving older archetypes modern support. And it makes you wonder how this game would have looked like had they balanced it with the current design philosophy from the get-go. Because we've had hand traps. Like, Kariba was an OG hand trap, the OG hand trap for all intents and purposes. It's fascinating to watch how they're reverse engineering this. They just need to stop doing things like trying to kill Time Wizard formats. Konami, chill. Let's not pull the Games Workshop. Let's not pull a Nintendo. Okay, let's just chill. Make some legacy product. Call it good.
The most iconic cards in his deck were his Trap Monsters, the embodiment of Apophis, his Anubis Traps, Curse and Judgment, as well as his most iconic cards, Temple of the Kings, along with its guardian, Mystical Beast Circuit. In the real world, Odion's cards would debut in the 2010 structure deck.
Yep, I remember these.
Which I have right here. I still have it. Look,
nice.
there's Circuit itself. There he is. Look at him. This deck more was themed around the Gravekeeper archetype. However, it did have some of Marik's unique cards thrown in, along with Odion's Temple of the King and Mystical Beast Circuit.
I've always loved Circuit. Circuit's so cool. I didn't actually know that Circuit had it might not have been until a TGS Anime video. I didn't know that Circuit was actually censored in the English when he like noms on Jinzo and stuff against in his one duel, right? The camera zoom is either really zoomed in or it's outright kind of like blurred or like it's like holographic white or something like that. Like it's actually censored. I love this thing. It's so cool.
Cards like Embodiment of Apophis wouldn't release until later in Gold Series Haunted Mine.
Wow, it was hot in
terms
mine,
of
wasn't it?
Odion support, well, the closest thing we would ever get was in 2022, we got an upgraded form of this Apophis monster with Apophis the Swamp Deity.
Okay.
It not only had better stats than the original when it was summoned, but when it was summoned, it could also negate the effects of face-up cards the opponent controlled, up to the number of other continuous traps you controlled.
Paleozoic players be like, hey, oh.
Until the end of the turn. Honestly, it's a fantastic
That's
card,
great.
but even with this, we could barely call this hodgepodge of cards together an Odion deck.
You have a 24-card pile and it doesn't even function.
Or at least we couldn't until today. With the release of 2025's Maze of the Master, like his sister Ishizu, who had her anime cards drastically upgraded, Odion.
I'm so glad I missed this format. I've heard nothing positive about Tier Shizu format. I kind of need to go back and get them. Kind of like how I need to get just tier elements in general for if stuff gets unbanned. Kip, it'll never get banned. See, we say this, but how many times has E-Telly been banned even though it's been detrimental to the format? How many times have we seen cards either, well, not necessarily erratas. Erratas are kind of a very special like case, but like Konami, we know uses the ban list to push things, right? Cosmo format came around. E-Telly came off that ban list, right? They'll Sky Striker stuff gets unbanned after a period of time, especially when then they end up banning things like Branded Fusion. I don't know why that was put to one. Like that was lists way too late. I have no idea why they did that. But it's one of those things where I like, if something is that powerful, I like having it in my backlog. I like being able to pull from that just in case Konami decides to renege on that ban list. Like, as it turns out, I actually really love this game and will play this game. I think people like TGS Anime do put out a lot of good content. I just hate playing across from, you know, the people who are silent, who don't actually engage with the game, or who smell, you know, like Nurgle. They smell like warm Subway, and they leave grease on your card sleeves. I can't do that. Like, this isn't going to evolve into another L5R rant. Like, I will play with people so long as they kind of have their stuff together. Am I saying that you need to make six figures a year or anything like that? No, nothing that wild, right? But it's like basic cleanliness, basic human interaction. Maybe it's even awkward. You know, someone talks about how much they love you, Belle, or something like that. It's like, yeah, I totally get that, right? Having that genuine interaction. That's why I would play.
Arn would receive the same, even getting a card form of himself in the same way that Ishizu did. The way the new version of the deck works is it's essentially still a trap hell deck. The goal is to disrupt and annoy the hell out of your opponent, then go for a devastating strike when their board is broken.
Okay.
With the new field spell, improved boss monsters, and even greater traps, this deck became even more capable of going on the offensive.
Yo, if anyone has a good Blue Eyes list, let me know. I've been, I got my 3x dueling mirrors, Blue Eyes, because I love the OG art. God, they were pretty spendy, though. I've been looking at building Blue Eyes. I have jack all idea how we're building it in Modernity.
So with that in mind, let's take a look at each of the new Odion cards, what original card they were based on, and what they can do. Let's start first with the Man with the Mark.
It's so cool.
If this card is normal or special summoned, you can take one Temple of the Kings or one spell and trap that mentions it from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to your grave. While you control Temple of the Kings, this card and Apophis monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects.
Protection.
Temple of the Kings you control cannot be destroyed by card effects.
Okay, I need to read that again just because I don't know. Like, I have to read it. Hearing it, I can't quite do. Like, if somebody tells me what Yubel does, it will not stick. Even though I know what Yubel does, I have to actually read it in sequence. No special summon, so either or. Take one Temple of the Kings or one spell or trap that mentions it from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. I like how that's worded. Actually, you take it and thus thus you add it to hand or to grave. You'll still have to reveal because you're confirming the target. For those that don't play card games, you're revealing because it's supposed to be like, you're not adding Pot of Greed or you're not adding an illegal target. You have to confirm in the effect text that this is a card that does mention Temple of the Kings. I will say, if you do not play TCGs, I would, even at a casual level, pick things up because it helps you work through a lot of problems in life. It helps you learn sequencing. It helps you learn minutia. It helps you learn interactions. It helps you with so much. I very much love modern PSCT as well. You can only use this effect to Man with the Mark once per turn. Sure, it's the tutor effect, whatever. Spirit of Yubel has it for the first effect. While you control Temple of the Kings, this card, a Puff's monster cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, gains mass protection, but this card has to be on the field. So this is the linchpin target that you have to go after. Can be destroyed by card effects. This can still be kaiju, but so can everything else in the game for all intents and purposes.
To understand why this Odion monster protects its fellow Apophis monsters as well as the Temple of the Kings itself, well, we need to go back a little bit. Back to Odion's backstory. You see, Odion was adopted into the Ishtar family, as they were unable to conceive a child. While loved by his mother, their father resented Odion as he sought a son of his own to become heir to the Tomb Keeper's legacy. Eventually, Odion's mother would convince her husband to allow Odion to become the next Tomb Keeper. However, miraculously, 2 children would be born to them. A daughter, Ishizu, followed by a son, and now heir, Marek. Mrs. Ishtar unfortunately died giving birth to Marek. However, with her last breath, she asked Odion to take care of his siblings. Odion initially hated Marek, for his birth meant he could no longer be Tomb Keeper, and with Mrs. Ishtar gone, Mr. Ishtar had no one to hold him back from his maliciousness.
Yeah, because I've only watched the dub. They really censored this.
He would begin to treat Odion as nothing more than a servant whose only goal is to serve the true heir, Marek.
I mean, this was, when he got bit by the cobra, right? Dude actually survived getting bit by a cobra.
In fact, Odion considered killing Marek after he was bitten by a snake. However, while in a fever dream, Marek called out to Odion, calling him his brother. Odion, immediately after hearing this, abandoned any hatred for him, since he realized Marek saw him as family, despite them not being blood related. Eventually, the Tomb Keeper ritual was forced upon Marek, having the secrets of the pharaoh carved onto his back. The pain was tremendous. Odion, as a show of loyalty to Mark, disfigured his own face in a similar fashion, promising that he will protect Marek no matter what. Which is a really long way of saying that's why he protects his fellow monsters and the field spell itself.
This makes me wonder if Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a very specific, not necessarily demographic, right? But it had specific selling points. When I think about what little I've seen of Cardfight Vanguard, what I've seen of Bakugan, Gundam Build Fighters, other shonen. Sure, some of them are more modern, right? But it's even modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I guess kind of suffers from the shonen problem, where it's like sure, this was shonen, right? But this came from Season 0, which I understand was incredibly dark, and this came from source material going into the dub, which was also incredibly dark, right? Something Magic Saw Blades for Yugi versus Arcana, right? It makes me wonder if a return to form, if we got a really kind of dark and gritty series, would be the boost that Yu-Gi-Oh! Would need. But I also don't think that it would work the same, right? I don't think that... It's strange, right? It's kind of so one of the big criticisms about, say, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, right? Where you're playing as an child, right? It makes sense, right? Pokemon's marketed to kids. You're playing at Blueberry Academy, Uva Academy, whatever, right? You're playing at the academies. Sure, it makes sense. But, it's cool. Can I just not be 12? Can I be 18? Can I be older? Is that a thing? And it makes me, so there's part of a warring demographic, right? And there thus becomes a balance between, kids deserve good shows, good media too. Absolutely. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that you're not alienating your core audience and stuff. It's so strange, right? There's such balancing acts, and these are why business decisions get made. But I mean, me personally, as I love GX, right? I haven't really seen past, I think, 5D's season 1. I'd love to watch more Yu-Gi-Oh! At some point, because I've not watched the full thing. It's just one of those things that I think we do need just a return to older philosophies. And I think that it even works in a lot of ways, because clearly formats like Time Wizard format, Legacy formats, GOAT, whatever formats exist, right? They're very popular for a reason. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays in a very specific way. I can enjoy Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But there's also times when I'm just cool, I'm just going to go side out all of these hand traps. I'll still play Yubel, but I'll play a nerf version of Yubel where we're not countering each other every 2 seconds, right? I think that Yu-Gi-Oh's strength lies in its modularity, because you can be as hyper competitive as you want. We're talking Bestial Hand Traps, Ash Blossom Nib, Droll Lockbird. You're running the whole 24 hand traps, right? Depending on your metagame, right? But then, like, you can also just we're not dealing with this. Sure, you can have Ash Blossom maybe, or if you want to make hand traps entirely, right? Which does open up to balancing issues. I think MBT did a video about that very subject, about like banning all the quote unquote good cards. It'll lead to more problems. I haven't seen it personally. I will have to watch it. I mean, you're going to run into issues anything you do. I think that Yu-Gi-Oh does have modularity, and they do design cards for all tiers of play. I guarantee you, Odion Archetype's probably not meta, right? It's probably not Fiendsmith tier. Just throwing that out there. But is there a place for this? Is there a place for the Gate Guardian archetype? Is there a place for Jinzo Majesty's Fiend deck? Frognarks? Yeah? It just depends on the format, depends on your playgroup, depends on what you want to do. And that's why I think I love Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just some thoughts. As it turns out, I'm passionate about gaming. I love this game. I love the series. GX is one of my favorite anime of all time. And I think modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Just doesn't hit the same.
Because he promised to protect him forever. Anyway, this monster's other ability lets you add the core card of this deck, Treasure of the Kings, which is based on Temple of the Kings. When it is activated, you can set one Apophis Trap from your deck. This card's name becomes Temple of the Kings while in the field zone.
So setting from deck would inherently mean, unless the card says that it can activate right away, you will run into the same issue that Yubel runs into. Okay, is it Spirit? One of them sets from deck. I can't remember offhand. I literally have to shuffle through my deck at this point. But yeah, one of them, because you can set Nightmare Pain from deck, but if you set it on your opponent's turn because it's set, even though it's a continuous spell, you can't actually activate it. Even then, as far as like you set it from turn, a full turn has not passed, therefore the trap card can't activate as well. I don't know, just super interesting things. I like the interactions in this game are peak. I love it. Sure, some rulings kind of make my head hurt. That's why last turn will never be unbanned. But, like, the game functions on logic. There's an engine here.
A turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on your field, or a trap in your grave, you can add one monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand.
So what I'm hearing is you run evenly in this deck. You run evenly, you're going to run imperms. You want to get that trap in the grave as fast as possible.
The original card that this is based on, Temple of the Kings, is actually still used in modern-day Odion decks, which is something I always like to see. These old nostalgia decks, when they get new upgraded forms, sometimes you just transition all the cards into new forms, and the old ones get left by the wayside. It's nice to see these old cards still make plays, because
I feel like that's what Hero runs into, right? Hero runs into the issue where you're transitioning to a bunch of the newer heroes, and it's like, it'd be cool to have incentive to play, I don't know, like Shining Flare Wingman rather than the new Shining Flare Wingman retrain, right? It'd be cool to, like, if you have some kind of collaborative effect, right?
You know what? It's still pretty good. This is because it had the ability that a user could activate a trap card the turn it was set. You could also send one Mystical Beast of Circuit in your monster zone, and this card you control to the graveyard to special summon one monster from your hand or deck, or one fusion monster from your extra deck. In the anime, this ability was used to summon out the Winged Dragon of Ra, albeit a fake one. However, now in the real world, you can summon whatever you want. It's also worth mentioning that in the anime, if Temple of the Kings was on the field and Odion played 2 specific cards alongside it, it would get out his boss monster, Circuit, which in the anime appeared as a ritual monster that may or may not have been summoned from outside of the deck, because that might be how ritual monsters work in the ye old anime, but
the new one as well, right? The I can't remember the name of the series. Rituals should have been an extra deck mechanic, 100%. Can you imagine Necros though being extra deck? That'd be dumb. Actually, that might honestly balance Necros a little bit, because in Necros you're running different levels. Right? You're running Trishul, a Dragon the Ice Bearer. You're running I ran Shooting Quasar. I think Star Eater Dragon, the Synchro. I think I ran Star Eater. Because it was a level 11, if I remember correctly. Like, you ran it to hit certain levels with one of your Necros mirrors.
Fun fact about him anyway. The 2 cards that would need to be played alongside it were Cup of Sealed Souls and Seal of Circuit. And one of these got a retrained version.
Oh, that's
Defense of the Temple. Fusion summon one Earth Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. If you use a monster you control that mentions Temple of the Kings, you can also use face-up monsters your opponent controls as material. If you control Temple of the Kings, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Dangers of the Divine from your deck to your hand.
Okay.
Now, thanks to this...
I like that pseudo super poly effect. It's not quote-unquote spell speed 4. I say quote-unquote because spell speed 4 doesn't technically exist, right? We use it as shorthand for cannot be responded to. I do love nomming my opponent's stuff. I think that's very thematic with how to do this, right? Like you can see the modern design team, as much crap as we can give, you know, Konami for Mulch Armies and stuff. Like, there's clearly cognizance to the source material, right? Sure, some may argue that's the bare minimum, but there's clearly, like, yeah, remember how Circuit just ate things? It nommed things like Jinzo, like Insect Queen, and then it got its like their parts on it because it was like absorbing them, right? Like, it's really cool to see how thematic they keep certain things, even if they're not the most meta. This is I think the Yu-Gi that a lot of us love.
Card, we can actually make 2 of the fusion forms. However, one of them is probably the one that you're going to be using use the opponent's monsters for part of its summon, but we'll start with this one first. Divine Serpent Apophis requires 2 monsters that mention Temple of the Kings. Must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing 2 Apophis monsters.
Okay.
Once per turn, you can target up to 3 Apophis traps with different names in your grave, set them. Once per turn, if a trap card is activated, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it.
You know, if the recursion in this is actually that good, my brain is already degenerating back to Destiny Hero Plasma Tech. So it was Boojin format. We're talking like Legacy of the Valiant was the newest set at this time, right? I ran Grinder Golem, Lava Golem, Scapegoat Token Sleaze to turbo out Destiny Hero Plasma that format. It was a 40 card pile. It was hilarious though. So I keep looking for a deck that can just absolutely just like throw out tokens or something like it's nobody's business, because even all these years later, I'm still wanting my competitive Destiny Hero Plasma. I want it. I need it. Dude, it'd be so cool. I just want to nom things. I wish the Relinquished Archetype had more support. Like, sure, we have Millennium Eyes, right? But Millennium Eyes is often a instant fusion back-in, right? I mean, I use it in Branded. I just want to take things. Allow me to sleaze things.
This fusion monster is most likely a combination of either 2 of the Apophis traps or all 3 of them all together, all smushed into a single deity.
Okay.
Following this card, we have Divine Scorpion Beast of Circuit. Requires 1 Circuit monster plus 1 monster with 2500 or less attack, which means that you can use your opponent's monsters with the fusion spell if you really want to.
This hits all of Joey's cards. Red Eyes Black Dragon, or most of Joey's cards, right? Red Eyes Black Dragon, 2400. Jinzo should be 2400. Insect Queen should still be 2400. Like, very, I like it. I like what we're doing here.
If this card is special summoned, or at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, or in their grave, banish it. And if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the banished monster's original attack.
Okay.
Can make it a second attack during each battle phase, while a level 10 or higher monster is banished. Now, what's interesting about this card is Circuit already has another upgraded form we're going to talk about in this archetype, a main deck version. This is the fusion version. The fusion version is actually a reference to what Circuit did in the anime, because when it destroyed a monster, it absorbs it. But in the anime, it also takes on the characteristics of the monster it destroyed. And this monster is actually the spitting image of the form it took when it absorbed Jinzo.
So we've talked about how Duel Monsters, original Yu-Gi-Oh, how, you know, F the rules, right? It was very much a RPG with card game mechanics, which I'm still a fan of. I think a series like that could work. You'd have to work it a specific way. But that's why the rule structure was so, like, loose. That's why, you know, I attacked the moon, right? Like, that's why we had things like that, because it was designed as kind of like D&D with card game mechanics, right? I think it's really cool to see things like this where, yeah, like it took on Jinzo's personality. Now, obviously, you're going to make a card for every single thing that it does. I think that's where you run into the hero problem, right? Where you have, you know, Elemental Hero Marin, Elemental Hero Darkbright, Elemental Hero Necro Shaman, right? Like, you run into, like, where your extra deck is only 15 cards, right? You run into 15 card extra deck syndrome, right? Much like Pokemon run into 4 move slot syndrome. But I do think that it's really cool to see modern retrains of this or modern iterations of this with certain things like this in mind.
But you see, in the anime, after Circuit destroyed Jinzo, it would absorb it, gain its power, and take on its likeness. Following this, it would then destroy and absorb Insect Queen, followed by Legendary Fisherman. Each time, it would change its appearance and gain more power. However, that begs an interesting question. Are we going to get more forms of this monster requiring maybe higher attack point monsters as part of its super poly ability that you use with a fusion spell? And each one would take on the new forms that we have. So I wonder, is there 2 more forms of this card we're going to get in the future based on the Legendary Fisherman and the Insect Queen absorption?
I'd be into
Time
it.
will tell. Now, it's also worth noting that the fusion spell has a graveyard ability that lets you add the new unique card to this archetype, Dangers of the Divine. Pay half your life points, then tribute 1 monster. Special summon 1, the Winged Dragon of Ra, from your hand or banishment.
Okay.
Ignoring its summoning conditions. Make its attack and defense 4,000.
Okay.
But it cannot attack. Also, during the end phase of the next turn, return it to the hand. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, choose 1, the Winged Dragon of Ra, in your monster zone, and send all of the monsters on the field to the graveyard. This is
That's a send, not a discard. So things like things that discard off of effect like Dark World would not trigger, right? I think Burning Abyss does still trigger. Anything that just requires it to hit grave, regardless of cost or not, would still trigger in my, as far as I'm aware. But if I don't know. Is this? I don't know. I'd have to look into it because it's being sent by an effect. I guess it's not being destroyed technically, right? So if it requires destruction, that's fine. It's not being sent from hand. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I don't know the ruling offhand.
such a cool reference to throw in the deck. Basically, with this card, you can summon a fake Winged Dragon of Ra. It's the real one, but it is completely unable to attack, just like the real one did, because it was going ballistic. It started attacking everything on the field, including the duelists themselves, which this card's ability to send all monsters on the field to the grave is a reference to. Honestly, any deck that adds a little bit of Egyptian god flair into their archetype, I think is really cool. So I'm glad that they paid homage to this. And just to address the elephant in the room, yes, it did suck that Odion essentially threw the duel against Joey just to appease Marek. Merciless Scorpion of Serket, based on Mystical Beast of Serket. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 level 10 or higher monster from your hand or deck, while you control Temple of the Kings. You can only special summon Merciless Scorpion of Serket once per turn this way. Once per turn, during your main phase, you can add 1 Temple of the Kings, or 1 spell that mentions it, from your deck to your hand. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack.
I mean, I like the limitation here, though. It kind of sucks. You wish it was all the attack, right? Especially when we have things like Modern Exodia Fusion that just go ham. I mean, we've had things with high attack, like Armitage the Chaos Phantom, probably one of my favorite like retro quote unquote cards. Very much love the effect. You know, getting all three Sacred Beasts, Raziel, Uriah, Haman back in the day as a kid without a job. Not necessarily something I had access to, right? Especially Armitage when it came out, whatever set it came out. Maybe, I don't remember which set it came out in. Like, we have things that are high attack. I get it. This is also subject to, and this is the real point I wanted to get across by pointing this out. This is also subject to, if I think this gets Ghost Ogred, right? Anything that negates this card's effect will zero sum its attack out to its base 2,500. But that's just like it's not a permanent thing, right? It's raised by an effect. Therefore, if this card's effect is negated, even if it has an increased attack from the gains, it will be reset to its standard printed value. That's why when you have cards that are like, like 0 attack, even for things like Slifer and Raw, which were like question mark, or which were like X thousand on anime printings and stuff. Like if you negate their effects, they go to 0 because there is no value.
Basically, this card is a much, much better version of this card right here. This one only gained like 500 attack every time it absorbed a monster, and it couldn't exist without Temple of the Kings on the field. This guy, a big step up. Apophis the Serpent, based on embodiment of Apophis and Apophis the Swamp Deity. Special summon this card as a normal monster. Then you can set one Apophis trap from your deck, except Apophis the Serpent. It can be activated this turn. If this card is sent to the grave, you can add one embodiment of Apophis from your deck to your hand. Basically, these three snakes work perfectly in tandem with each other. You play Apophis the Serpent, it gets you to Apophis the Swamp Deity, and then when it goes to the grave, you get the final embodiment of Apophis into your hand. Verdict of Anubis, based on Judgment of Anubis and Curse of Anubis. When your opponent activates a spell/trap card while you control 3 or more other spells or traps, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. Then, if you control Temple of the Kings, you can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the total original attack of those destroyed monsters.
I actually really like this because it is a spell speed 3, it has requirements, it has a very strong effect, and it also has, do you meet this condition? Yes? Cool. You may do extra. I actually really like this as a card.
This trap's effect to wipe the field after being used and then deal damage is actually the effect of the anime Judgment of Anubis. We even see a reference to it in the card artwork, with Joey's monsters making an appearance. You can't have a trap deck without even more trap cards to fill up the deck. Plus, Odion seems to be heavily tied to Anubis himself, so these Anubis traps work really well with his deck. Which is interesting because they actually made the Anubis monster into a monster for this archetype. Anubis, the Last Judge. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand or grave, while you have 3 or more cards in your graveyard with different names that are Temple of the Kings and or traps, by placing 2 of them on the bottom of the deck in any order. You can send this card from your hand to the grave, add 1 The Man with a Mark from your deck to your hand. If a spell/trap you control is destroyed by card effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it. Anubis is the Egyptian god of the underworld. The Tomb Keepers have very heavy associations with the underworld, death, the pharaoh and all that, so it's kind of fitting. It's just part of his deck. And now we've got like Yugioh Archetype, which is Egyptian themed. We've had the Odion Archetype, Egyptian themed as well. Marek needs to get a full retrain of his deck, I think. I know you could probably make the case that the Gravekeepers...
Dude, I can't wait for Mikura the Destructor retrain. We had the old one get an errata. I can't wait for a retrain on that. That would be wild.
...are his deck, but I feel like he deserves his own full-fledged deck based on the cards he
Plasma
used. Get
Eel and stuff.
Golem involved. I guess get those holding chains. He's got loads of cards you could work into it, so... yeah, with that, that's the Odion Archetype done. Let me know what you think of it in the comments section below, and if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot. But other than that, check out one of these videos if you fancy. All the best. Bye, everyone.
You should definitely do that. As somebody who really loves this content, and I think is some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh content on the platform, personally, this is great. I absolutely love this. And it was really cool to learn about this archetype. I've been debating. I've been on the fence about picking it up or not. I'm still building a couple other projects like Blue Eyes. I'm trying to figure out Modern Heroes as well. I don't know. It's really cool to watch things like this and to learn about archetypes. But it's also cool from a design standpoint to see where Konami's going. But I digress. Thank you all for watching. Really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. I definitely sure did. Don't go check out TGS Anime, especially if you have not. I'll see you in the next one.